So here's what I'm doing today. If it's terrible, I'll switch back. Can you see me?
Yeah, I can't get my camera to work.
Oh, that's okay. I'm not recording video. But here's what I'm trying. I cracked open my second laptop that I haven't turned on for like 4 years, and I'm recording it on my regular laptop. So I'm gonna do all the music and like mix everything live, kind of like it's a live show.
Ah, that's cool.
I was just gonna do one more thing because I realized that I need to know what episode this is gonna be before I even start anything. All set?
All set.
So you won't be able to hear what I'm playing, but it'll make sense.
This is the Digital Marketing Experts Podcast episode. No, why am I trying to sound like a radio announcer?
Experts on the Wire, episode 48. Bill Sebald. Hey everyone, welcome to episode 48 of Experts on the Wire. I am very excited today because I am live mixing this entire show. So the music you hear I've got Bill on the line on Skype right now. He's waiting for me to do this intro. Trying to do something a little bit different for the new year, maybe bring up the energy level a little bit and also make my editing process after all these shows a little bit easier to manage. So we'll see how it goes. I apologize if there's a few kinks in the system today. We'll get it all worked out and get that sorted for future episodes. So we're going to bring on Bill in just a moment. But first, the email list music, the email list drum beat. You may recognize this subconsciously now. Whenever you hear a drum beat like this, you're going to go to evolvingseo.com/wire, where you're going to sign up for the email list. On the right-hand side, very simple, just enter your email address. You'll get all the links, show notes, resources directly from me in your inbox when every episode posts. So everything Bill talks about today is going to be in that email in your inbox. You can even reply to me and I will write back. Let's try to end this right when the drum beat ends, right here. Bill, I nailed it. How are you today?
I'm doing great. You're like a professional broadcaster. You went right up to the post, huh?
Yeah, I did. I went right to the very last drum fill in that drum beat. You'll hear it when you hear the episode because Bill's very patiently sitting here waiting for me because he can't actually hear the music that I'm playing. He can just hear me talking like a crazy man. But anyways, Bill, this show is about you. I'm very excited to have you on here. So let's jump right into things. For the listeners who may not be familiar with you, can you give a quick background on who you are and your company, Greenlane SEO?
Sure. So the company, Greenlane, it's a digital marketing agency outside of the Philadelphia area. We are a 14-person team. We're made up of various different kinds of people, big brand marketing vets and other really extremely smart people. Heavily rooted in the data. I like to think of us as kind of like a super group. So if you're older and know the band Asia, or maybe you're younger and maybe Velvet Revolver, we're often called by companies who maybe they have some really challenging problems or goals, whether in SEO or PPC or content strategy, display, what have you. You know, we're often called for jobs to help sort out some big issues. I've been doing SEO myself for about 20 years. I am embarrassed to say that I'm that old in the game, but still young at heart. So SEO is definitely my passion, my specific favorite channel of all digital marketing channels.
Yeah, that's awesome. What is it that you love so much about SEO? Let's just get right into the good stuff. I'm going to go a little spontaneous with some questions, and I've got a whole list of questions in front of me here, as you know. But what is it about SEO that you love so much?
I love that it's so difficult. I actually love the challenge of it. I love the detective work. I love the testing. I love kind of the wait and see, the rinse, wash, and repeat, and just kind of measure what you're doing and then building upon things. I actually like the failure aspect of it too. I like the learnings. Again, it's like the detective work. I really must have missed my calling as Batman or as a detective.
You mentioned SEO being difficult. What are some of the most difficult parts about SEO? Maybe not only doing the work and getting results, but maybe what it takes to work with some of the big brands that you work with.
The difficult parts, well, there's a lot of difficulties, I think. I think the unknowns with SEO are really hard to translate to some of the big brands. It's very often somebody will come and say, here's $5. How much are you going to give me? And they're looking for an exact number. And, you could make up a number and you could live by a forecast all year and try to hit it and not even be able to hit it because SEO is so unpredictable and there's no guarantees. So I think that's really been one of the most difficult things. And I came from an e-com background, so it's especially difficult if you're coming from an e-com background or you're working in e-com. I find that probably to be the most difficult thing about SEO. It's really about, you need to educate your client, but you need to educate everybody that even works with you to understand the actualities of what SEO is and the rules of the game. And I find that to be fun, but challenging.
And do you find one of the most difficult parts is that it always keeps changing? So every 6 months, we're like telling clients and consulting clients new things that have come up.
I find that to be the most fun part. Maybe one of those fun parts. But that's definitely one of the most challenging things. Yeah, and why is that the most fun for you? Do you just like to always be dealing with new things or new challenges? Yeah, I think if I were, in another field where things don't change, and I'd be bored to death. I think the fact that it does change so much, and it's marketing. I love marketing in general, and it's psychology. I love psychology too. So, all those things mixed together keeps you on your toes and makes it challenging, makes it fun. So I'm wondering if, just so we can bring some value to the listeners, either if they're on the agency side or providing SEO services, or if they are working for a brand or with a brand, just to hear both sides of the story, are you able to tell us maybe some examples? And if you can't name specific names, that's fine, but maybe some examples of the types of brands that you work with. So we work with larger brands, we work with middle-sized brands, we work with smaller brands, we work with e-commerce brands, publishers, all sorts of different industries, verticals. We're pretty all over the map. Mm-hmm. I'm used to working with a lot of e-com. I've worked with more than probably, I say maybe about 100 brands that maybe I'm sure you've heard of. Mostly when you walk in any mall, you see a lot of those brands. So I came from that sort of world. I always find that brands, no matter who they are, they're all very unique. They are like fingerprints. They all have their own unique qualities and personalities and different systems. And you're working with all types of different people. And I really do actually enjoy that part of it as well. And do you have any particular, maybe what the listeners would love to hear is sort of the things that are working now in SEO? Do you have any particular success stories that you can think of with any one of these brands? The way that we work, so we actually really customize to what the goals are that our clients have. So if somebody comes in and says, our focus right now is to hit these kind of KPIs, well, we're going to build custom strategies to help them hit those. So sometimes that'll take us down the path of maybe technical SEO, or sometimes it's we're focusing just on content strategy. Sometimes we're focusing on everything. We're doing every single part of SEO and other channels too. Maybe we're, how can we work in some CRO and, and any other, sort of what we want to do is we want to work with their other marketing channels as well and just have us all sit at the table. So it's really different for everybody. Mm-hmm. Is there so if you're giving a possible new client like a proposal, let's say, or maybe you have a roster of case studies, what's one maybe specific case study you could think of? And it could be any metric. It could be you improve traffic or CRO or whatever it is. But I'd love to talk through one little example of maybe, what the problem was, what you and Greenlane SEO did, and then kind of the outcome of that situation. I think one of my favorite ones is it's a massive company, $1 billion company, but they were struggling with getting their traffic just suddenly dropped. I mean, they went down to about 5,000 sessions a month. And they didn't know why. And of course, that's when they unfortunately, that's when they usually call you after it's been a few months and they kind of notice it. They say, we got to call an SEO company. So I really enjoy, I remember that experience very fondly because we were able to do a lot of good technical SEO work, sort of studying where the bots were going, where they weren't going, understanding that Google just has hit a point of the mess that their site was, which is unfortunately a typical problem on enterprise sites and database-driven sites, that they get kind of swampy. And how did you identify where the bots were going and where they were not going? Log files. So analyzing log files. A lot of it was, we actually focused more with them on actually pulling crawls. So Screaming Frog is a tool that we use all the time. So that right away, before even getting to the bots, was was very telling. We were able to see some of the pages that were being indexed that shouldn't have been. And we were understanding that there was a lot of crawl budget being spread into areas that didn't need to be looked at, right? They didn't need to be indexed. The bot data just reinforced that.
John Mueller, just from Google, the other day, and of course he was on the podcast. You can go check out the episode about AMP with John. He just tweeted the other day something to the effect of that SEOs do not think of crawl budget the way we think of crawl budget, and kind of like implying that we're all thinking about it incorrectly. I don't know if you saw that tweet or heard that news, but what's your take on that? Or you sound like you've solved an issue with looking at crawl budget efficiency. Do you think this is Google just putting out a PR effort, or do you think there is really some value to looking at crawl budget?
Yeah, we may not be using the terminology the same way he is, but I certainly think there is value in looking at that. You're a longtime SEO. You remember PageRank sculpting and how Matt Cutts said, yep, it absolutely works. And he would even go so far as to offer some advice, and then we're all doing it. And then a year goes by and he says, oh yeah, that stopped working a year ago. But that changed everything. But I really do feel that in the last few years, and I guess we can't call it PageRank sculpting, but maybe it's, it's really sculpting where the bots go. Seems to, at least in our experience, correlate with very positive results by letting Google see only the important pages, because we know that's what Google wants. Google wants your important pages. By helping them only see the important pages and constantly visit them, you see a correlation with better rankings and more traffic.
And how did you discover the pages that were being crawled but should not have? Is there a particular way to dig those up in Screaming Frog, or maybe a log file tool?
The log file tool for sure, right? That could show you, even Screaming Frog, they have a log file analyzer. Mm-hmm. It's another tool that they put out maybe 6 months ago or more. That's a very good tool. So you could, just by looking at that, take a look at where the bots are going and how frequently they're going there. So if they're constantly hitting a page that you don't see as one of your most important pages, you can kind of divert them.
How would you divert them? Would you no follow links to that page? Would you block it in robots.txt? How would you do that?
Yeah, all of the above. Canonical tags.
Canonicals, really?
Yeah, anything you do what you got to do. Like canonical tags, a lot of times Google may not count them. Google's going to use them as a hint. Yeah. But with a lot of enterprise sites, you don't have the complete control. Sometimes that's the only function you have available to you. Sometimes it's only robots.txt. Mm-hmm. So you basically use everything you have at your disposal to sort of shape where the bots go and show them the most important pages. Interesting.
So I want to get back to the story. So this was you said $1 billion company, massive enterprise site. What was the scale of the site, maybe in pages, that we're talking about here?
Well, they had a bunch of different properties. I would say they were definitely over 1 million pages.
Okay. And so, but they were only getting about 5,000 sessions a month, you said?
Yeah, on one section of the site that we were focused on.
Mm-hmm. And so how many pages were getting traffic versus the millions that they actually had?
I'd have to look that up. How many pages were getting traffic? What we started to see was some of the pages went from having a lot to a couple drips. And that was unusual because they didn't make any changes. Mm-hmm. One of the things that we saw, they started to get in Webmaster, and this was actually a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago, when it was still called Webmaster Tools. Yeah. they were sending notices about excessive URLs. And that's a sign. When Google starts sending you notifications about things, you have to kind of open your eyes and say, well, I wonder what they're leading me towards here. Yeah. So that was one of the indications. They got about 3 of those emails, and then it was just like hitting a switch. It dropped, and we said to them, "Are you sure you made no changes?" Yes, we made no changes. Absolutely sure we made no changes. So it was very much a situation where Google said, "All right, we've had it. Today we're making a change on how we index and crawl your site." And I've actually seen that on a couple sites since. So it's not just this one website. It's a trend for sure.
So what was the outcome of the work that you did? And by the way, was there other work that you did besides this uncovering the, low quality pages? Were there other things that you did to fix this issue?
It was really about no, there really wasn't. We didn't do any content work or linking work. They had all that. They're a very well-known publisher. They don't need us to do any content work or backlink work. So it was really just technical work. It was really just shaping the crawl paths, and helping the bots get to the right pages. It was really, I'd like to say, it's pulling the weeds, and we had to do it in waves where we couldn't even get our crawlers through the entire site. So we crawled as much as we could. We identified the issues. We said, make these changes. Tickets went in. Things were deployed. We'd run the process again, find more weeds, and we did probably about 3 rounds of it until finally. And luckily, they moved pretty fast. That's not always the case, but they were able to make these really, I guess, clean their yard very well within 3 months, and the traffic just went right back up.
And so when you say the traffic went back up, to what degree did it go up? Did it double, triple?
It's still going up. I'd have to go back and look. This was a project, so it wasn't a long-term client. But I mean, I could say that within 3 months, it was back to where it was and still trending higher.
Wow, very interesting.
So in the hundreds of thousands of visits.
Can you recall any either maybe more content-based or even link-based case studies or projects you can think of that brought great results for clients? Is that even how you would frame things and work at Greenlane?
Yeah, it very much is the way we do things. So if we have a client that's focused on content initiatives, one of the things we like to do is like a gap analysis, really find out where other people are having success where they're not. Doing a content inventory, trying to look at what's there that could be improved, what pages could be purged, right? Because I actually really do believe that purging pages. Have you seen there's been a bunch of different blog posts in the last year about purging pages, and some of the success sites have gotten. Hrefs, their blog, put it out. I did a Mazinar about it. Mm-hmm. So I actually do believe that there's a lot of value there, and I think that ties back to what we were talking about with the sculpting the bots.
When you said that this one particular situation, or maybe in general, when other people are doing better in places where they're not, do you mean like a competitor?
For sure, yeah.
And so yeah, do you have an example of that, or?
Yes, I could I can't give the client I'm thinking about, but it's they're in the pet space, so it's really figuring out some of the opportunities, some of the things that people are asking about that they're just simply not answering.
Oh, okay.
So, there's a lot of people looking for information about pets, about sick pets, about, how to keep their pet, running strong. And if you're just putting out the answers in very thin kind of small ways, well, Google's not going to think that you're an authority. They're not going to really see the value. Mm-hmm. You want to be doing 10 times better than the people that are already ranking well. So by looking at your competitors, looking at their success, and then really looking at data and understanding that, yes, I'm going to pursue this topic, make that topic, improve that topic, create it from scratch, whatever you got to do, make it better than what's already ranking number one by far, right? You've heard Rand Fishkin talk about 10X, the whole 10X idea. I love that idea.
Yeah.
So a content gap analysis and even doing a content audit can help you find where you actually have some shortcomings there.
So let's say you get a new client in the door and you're trying to identify these gaps. What are some common ways that you go about doing that?
One of the tools that we love to use is SEMrush. I think that's a fantastic tool. That's
I knew you were going to say that. Yep.
Yeah. It's like the Compete or Hitwise for search.
Yep.
Looking at social data, looking at BuzzSumo, there's a lot of information you can pull out of there about what people are looking for, what people are talking about, and that definitely feeds into it as well.
What's a report you love to use in SEMrush? And to buy you a minute or two, I'll tell the listeners one that I've been loving lately is going to the ranks report, and this is where SEMrush ranks like the top 1,000 or 10,000 websites according to how much search traffic they think they're getting. And what I do is I just dig in and I've literally just manually scan those to look for sites that might have an overlap in audience for whatever project I'm working on. And then I just go to town and I dive deep into that domain and I run filters. I look at the pages report. I look for all content that I can find that this big giant site has written about that overlaps maybe topically with my client. And oftentimes these big giant sites, because they're so huge, they're not paying attention to all these little details like we want to. Oftentimes this is a great way to find content they've published around those topics that they're ranking for. But then, like you said, just do it 10x better. And so it's a great way to just kind of go right after what one of these big sites. And often, I don't know about you, Bill, but I find that a big giant site that's not relevant to one specific niche topic, it can ride on its domain authority, but it generally, if you have a more niche website that will publish a topic around that niche, even with a lower domain authority, will have an easier time ranking for that. So I've been loving going into that ranks report in SEMrush, because it's just like, here's the biggest sites on the entire web. So for example, I went to Pinterest and I filtered by the word baby, because I was doing some research for a potential client that sells maternity clothes. And I found all these ideas around people looking around keywords and topics that had to do with people that were having babies that were ranking on Pinterest. Pinterest content was ranking in Google. So that's something I've been doing with SEMrush that I really love. And Bill, I maybe bought you a minute or two there. Is there a particular report that you like with that tool, or maybe another, to find these content gaps?
Dan, that's exactly the same.
Awesome.
You gave me time to come up with something, and I can't come up with anything different. That's pretty much the same way that I use it as well. I like also looking, because I think about every query that a user makes into Google, that's showing need, right? Mm-hmm. So I really still like looking at analytics data. If PPC campaigns are run, you're getting more information out of analytics, but really looking at their queries and trying to understand what they're looking for the most. And that's usually what I start looking at. I start looking for topics based on what people are already sort of seeing my site for, right? If Google's letting a couple of those queries, if they're letting my site actually show for a couple of those queries, maybe I'm going to go see if there's real opportunity in those queries. Mm-hmm. Looking at similar topics and then throwing into BuzzSumo and seeing how much they've been shared. Using that as a proxy for demand or popularity. I think those are other really nice metrics to put in place. Because at the end of the day, you want to put together, if you're going to spend all this time trying to 10x something, you want to make sure you want to have a really good sense that it's going to play out for you. So you're not wasting your time. And, the more metrics you can get put into it, sometimes I even look at backlink data on some of the competitor pages as a proxy of popularity. So I'll measure all those things together to really try to help me figure out what the best topics are to pursue.
Absolutely. So you figure out maybe some content gaps. Then how do you help the client move things towards execution? Do you help provide them a content calendar? Do you actually create content? What does that process look like?
So we can do all that. We have a content team. They're absolutely brilliant. But sometimes we're working with a client in the capacity of just sort of giving them the guidance. Sometimes we are more like editors. Sometimes we're everything A to Z. Sometimes we're actually doing the writing as well. What we want to do is write where we think we can actually do 10x copy. If it's a client who's selling circuit breakers, we don't have any circuit breaker experts on our team, so we're probably not the ones who should be writing that 10x copy, but we're ones that can help the person on in the client's group. We can help them actually write better, write for an audience using their expertise.
Yeah,
we bring the experience, they bring the knowledge.
What is 10x content to you? What are the qualities so if somebody's sitting there and they want to create what they hear about 10x content, what is that actually? What are the tactical things that go into creating 10x content?
What is 10x content to me is actually, think about it from our world, right? When you are thinking about, Dan, a lot of your content works this way for me. When I'm thinking about a question, I go, Dan had the best resource I've ever seen, and I'll bookmark your page, and I'll go back to you. That's 10x content to me, because it's the one that I remember. It's the one that helped me the most. It's the one that I return to.
Very interesting. Yeah, AJ Khan, blind5yearold.com, if I'm saying his last name correct. He was on episode 2 of the Experts on the Wire. He has a great article about memory and recall. So content recall or something to that effect. So his point, and I agree with what you're saying, and we all kind of agree that really the memorable content is 10x content. How does one make content memorable though? Because I think a lot of people, they hear this kind of high level advice, but they're not sure how to do that. Is that, for me, I know it's a lot of hard work and elbow grease and a lot of hours that I put into my content. But maybe for some others, it's just being opinionated or finding a unique topic no one's written about. So what is this memorable 10x content to you?
It goes back to, I use the data to sort of understand what people are asking. And if you can get, let's say you have 5 or 6 questions that can that maybe one topic that you're working on can answer, make sure that all those questions are solidly answered, right? So that way, and it doesn't need to be long form content. It doesn't need to be massive. It just needs to be long enough to actually be able to answer all those questions. I also like to think about hummingbird content. That's what I call it. It's kind of like the post hummingbird concept where Hummingbird came out, and they now have conversational search, they have semantic search, they have the improvements in their contextual search, like actually making sure that the content that you're writing is also going to trigger a part of Google that says, hey, that's authoritative. I understand that because the concepts are all tying together in the form of relationships that I understand.
So I want to pick out 2 points you just said there. One, you said that, I forgot the first point, but the second, we'll come back to that. The second point around Hummingbird. So you hear this example. Are you saying that if you're writing a post about Manhattan, that if you're including related entities, let's say like Brooklyn or the Empire State Building, like in the content, is that what you're getting at with Hummingbird?
I do try to do that. I like, there's some different tools out there, language processing tools. The one I like is Alchemy API. I'll use that maybe to sort of take a look at entities and relationships and other keywords that it can pull out of competitors' copy and say, well, maybe it's ranking well because Google understands these relationships from that text. Let me emulate that where I can. I think it just helps Google in their semantic search modeling understand right, because at the end of the day, it's Google is learning how to rank pages based on their improved comprehension, right? It's not only just about keywords. It's not, 7 years ago. So being able to write copy that can prove the value not only to your users but to Google as well, and to really help educate Google as well as your users.
Do you think Google's doing a good job at that? I've seen some questionable results lately.
I think that's where they're going. Yeah, I definitely look at things and go, well, that doesn't really sync with what Hummingbird was supposed to do, but that's got to be where they're going. In my mind, I think that's a pretty safe bet.
So I did remember the first point that I wanted to pull back in, and that was you're basically saying to anticipate people's questions. And I do this all the time. So when I'm creating content, I'm always, as I'm editing and redoing it, I'm saying, well, when they read this, then what are they going to ask? And when they read this, then what question is that going to bring up? So I'm always trying to anticipate that. Is that kind of what you meant as well?
Yeah. I mean, the more that you can answer, the safer you'll be.
Yeah, I love that. So sorry, go ahead.
No, that's exactly right.
Yeah. What I wanted to ask you was, what are some big mistakes that you see these brands and enterprise companies making when it comes to SEO? Do they have unreasonable goals? Are they asking for too much? Do they misunderstand common things? Do they have common myths and misconceptions about SEO?
I think the biggest thing I see as being an issue is maybe they don't really understand how hard it is. A lot of times we're talking to people and maybe they have a cursory understanding of it or something that they've read, not in an SEO trade, but maybe, the Wall Street Journal. And they say, all right, well, that's what SEO is. And I think SEO has gotten a hell of a lot harder, right? The tactics we used to hang our hats on, a lot of them are gone. A lot of them just don't work. So any success that they might have seen if they've been with a company or a different company, a lot of times these guys bounce around. A lot of times the big brand guys bounce around other brands, so they might have experience with SEO or with an SEO company who did very tactical things. And I don't see that working nearly as well as it used to.
Yeah. So
going in and saying, hey, here's a strategic view. Here's what we're putting together. Here's our roadmap. And they're like, well, what happened to just changing title tags? Oh, okay. That's you're back there. No. We're up here now.
Yeah.
And here's why. And that seems to be one of the bigger challenges for sure.
So if one of your main goals is to kind of, and I hate to say increase rankings, but maybe make a dent in the ranking or the search visibility to thus drive more organic traffic, what are some of the things that you see working maybe from like a ranking factor standpoint? Are we still on a foundation of links and content and maybe some of these other things? What are maybe some newer things that you see working now?
I think we're actually still on that same foundation. I just think the way that so let's focus on links specifically, the way that we could scale the link building campaigns, I don't think it scales that well for most bigger brands who are competing, or not even bigger brands, even medium-sized brands who are competing with sites their size, right? Some of those tactics still work in small, small sites.
And are you saying like tactics like broken link building or like reclaiming brand mentions and things? Is that what you're referring to? That kind of stuff?
Well, to be safe, so I don't get yelled at by other SEOs, maybe we'll talk about like PR link building and directory submissions. Because I think you can still be successful with broken link building. I just don't know if it moves the needle nearly as well as it used to.
Right.
What seems to move the needle is those really big, juicy links that are very, very hard to get.
So like a nice editorial earned link from like the New York Times or like is that what you're referring to?
Yeah. I mean, a couple of years ago, we got picked up and mentioned in Mashable, and it was like overnight.
So
the
Greenlane
rankings
did?
across everything.
Your company? Yep.
Yeah. And it was like, wow. Oh, that's pretty telling. So all the other links, all the interviews, all the kind of things that we did, we got a lot of little SEO links from all the different tools we've built and things. But that moved the needle. And that was a couple of years ago, and I haven't seen it change since.
Are there any links you see move the needle for these big companies, the big brands? Because they have so many links to begin with. Is it really not about, I mean, isn't there a point of diminishing returns in some degree when it comes to the big brands and links?
Because they have so many. Yeah. When I started my career working with the 80 or 90 or 100 retailers, we didn't even do link building because they had them all.
Yeah.
We didn't need to go get any more. If they're really big and have a ton of links, I still think you'd be selective on what kind of links you're getting. Like, what are you trying to point the links to? Are you trying to move sections of the site that are suffering, or are you just trying to get links for link's sake? Like, it needs to be targeted, I think.
Yeah, and do you think one thing going on there with the Mashable link was that it correlates probably with a lift in referral traffic?
So that's great. I used to really believe Google when they said that user metrics do not improve your rankings, and I've definitely turned on that.
Yeah,
I think Google has gotten to a point where they've figured out, that they can tell when somebody's sending a fleet of bots to look like users or when it's actually users. So yeah, I would believe that.
Because I often, one thing I've seen is I had a small sort of consulting client that I was working with who got it like on the front page of Y Combinator or something. Like all these sites like Reddit, and I know Dig's not really a thing anymore, but back in the day, but Reddit, maybe Y Combinator. I've seen that sort of lift in referral traffic make a dent in increased rankings and traffic well after the spike dies away. Do you see that as well?
Yeah, one of the things we talk about when we're talking to clients and even prospects about link building, we're not just trying to do it for SEO. We actually are trying to do it for referral traffic as well.
Yeah.
To me, the best link to go after is the one that'll actually drive users and maybe make some sales, because those are the ones that Google's trying to, right? If Google's going to say the web is democratic and every link is a vote, well, they're going to count those votes more because they're going to be able to see that those links are actually driving people in who stick around. And I think that's the way that I think link building works best. So that's the way that we've been focusing on it.
How did you get that link on Mashable? Like, how did that happen? I know maybe you didn't proactively do something there, but how did that happen?
So that came, how did that happen? That came through, I think that was a Harrow that got passed over to Mashable.
Interesting. Now,
always build those relationships because you never know where, one's going to end up.
Yeah, for everyone listening, I've seen this as well. We've invested a bit in Harrow for evolving SEO in the last year or so. And, I'll write back to somebody, not hear from them for a month. And then a month later, it's somebody from American Express, writing back from their blog wanting to get a quote. And so I got a link on American Express. And, but yeah, I mean, sometimes doing a Harrow, like you said, might get picked up from a smaller publication to then a bigger one. So it's important to do those. And I agree. And you never know quite where they're going to lead.
Yeah. It's building serendipity, right? It's everywhere you can build that relationship, build that friendship, show that value. And you never know where a single email referral, will end up.
Yeah, absolutely. So this link stuff is great. I want to move a little bit to asking you about kind of the relationship between agencies and clients, and specifically reporting. This is an area that has been quite honestly a thorn in my side from since forever, since I've been doing SEO. I don't feel like any one particular piece of software does a really 100% job with it. I'm always kind of mashing reports together from different tools. What does Greenlane do for reporting? Do you do monthly stuff? Do you have a tool that you use? What does that look like?
So for most of our clients, we're going to do at least monthly reporting. And the way that we have it running, we have an analytics team, and Krista and her team will put together reports that basically she can build for all our clients within a day. So they're run out of Google Sheets. They're connected with like Supermetrics. APIs are pulled in. We don't want to spend time putting together reports. We want to spend time analyzing reports. So by making it dynamic and using APIs, they can put together a great report. The idea is to make sure that you're going in and customizing each template to your client goals, right? Because at the end of the day, the report's not just for the client. And I spent many years in big agencies sitting down and putting reports together, and it takes 2 weeks. And that was kind of the engagement. That sucks. That wasn't a very good value.
Yeah.
But what we love now is being able to build these reports and being able to look at them and have our strategists sort of come up with campaigns based on those. So we're educating the client with these reports, but also sort of creating what our monthly roadmap is going to look like and recommending good things because of these reports.
For somebody like me, now we're like a 3-person shop. What would it take to start from scratch setting up these Google Sheet reports with APIs? Do I need to be a programmer? Do I need to read some kind of guide on this? Like, how does that even work from the beginning?
Well, I'm not a programmer either. Luckily, we have a couple. So I'll just give you their emails and they'll do it for you, buddy. Don't worry about it. Yeah, the language isn't actually that tough. It's not that hard to make Google Sheets pull in data. It's surprisingly easy. I couldn't do it without a little bit more practice and probably a guide next to me, but it's not something totally out of the grasp of an average person.
And so what does the client actually get? Do they just have this link to the Google Sheet they can go to whenever they want, or do you actually export some kind of PDF or something?
So they get the link to the Google Sheet. And I was actually resistant to that for a while because I thought, agencies or clients aren't going to want that. They're going to want that polished, beautiful. You sweat over this report. It's going to be, very attractive. And I found out that I was wrong. They love these Google Sheets because they're able to kind of click the link anytime they want, and the data populates. It's instant. So they're getting up to the minute data through these APIs.
Yeah. That's. I've noticed that too. I've provided some clients with the links that you get from, say, Authority Labs, and they love that. They can just go in whenever they want. And a lot of times I'm finding they don't want it fancy either. They just want to get the data quickly and easily. So I want to ask you, what do you feel like is the overall health of the SEO industry in terms of, agencies providing services, agencies big to small? Are we in a good place? Do we have a lot of work to do still? What do you think? What's your take on that?
So I think there's a lot of agencies that do it really, really well. Like going through the Moz recommended list, I know a bunch of the agency owners there, and I think they're amazing. And when I'm competing for work against them, I'm thrilled because I'm like, you're going to get somebody good.
Yeah.
If you don't pick us, you're still going to get somebody good. But that's not to say that I haven't heard, stories about other SEO companies, when a prospect comes in and says, I work with so-and-so and this is what I'm getting. I'm getting 1 blog post a month. I'm guaranteed 3 links a month. I'm guaranteed that I'm going to get keyword research. And then I get that every month and it's not moving the needle. And that I hate hearing because, that's not going to move the needle anymore. That's a company trying to really scale the process and not thinking about what's actually moving the needle. So I also think there's a big problem with companies that have salespeople that go out and sell services. They're going out and selling the SEO services, but they're not SEOs themselves. They don't know enough. They're selling things that aren't actually going to become a reality. So a client goes on board and says, hey, your salesperson told me I'd get this, this, and this, and let's have it. Then the actual team that does the work is like, well, that was a little oversold. Now there's contention in a bad relationship. I still think there's a little bit too much of that from what I can tell.
Yeah, I agree. There can be a disconnect sometimes between sales and then the actual agency. What was I going to ask next? Oh, you mentioned when we met at Inbound how even if you don't work with a client, you really care about and like to see them end up in a good situation. Is that just part of sort of who you are? Like because I know some people will just turn away work and not really care about where they end up. But is this something that you deep down sort of are concerned about?
Yeah, I think that's always sort of been my soft spot. I'm probably, so I run biz dev. I'm probably the worst salesman ever, right? Because I don't know how to talk anybody into anything. But I want to make sure that the people I talk to, especially if they're great people, and especially if they're companies where they own the company. Sometimes you're talking to the people that own the companies, and you just hear how much they love what they're doing, and they know this SEO thing out there is something they should be doing. I want to make sure that they're set up right. I want to make sure they're getting the right information, and I'll spend hours sometimes just helping people out, knowing they'll never be an actual client, or referring them to somebody whose rates might be a little bit lower, or actually maybe somebody who does certain kinds of work better than we do it. I'm happier that they'd find the right person. At the end of the day, that's really what matters. I guess I'm kind of a hippie.
Yeah, I think it's a great thing. And it's funny, we just started with a new client who, no joke, talked to over 20 SEO providers and agencies before they settled on working with us, which I was very excited about because it's in an industry that I really love. So some people listening might get what that is. But I was shocked because they forwarded over some of the information they got from other, I don't know if these were agencies or maybe some were like bigger design shops that happened to quote, do SEO. I was very concerned about what some of these things that I saw coming through as in proposals. And so I know there's a core sort of handful of, I don't know if it's dozens or maybe 50 or 100 or 200 agencies that we all know and love that do good work. But do you get the sense there's this still sort of mass of low quality companies out there trying to snake oil sell us SEO services?
Yeah, and it's a shame because these companies don't know what they don't know. And I don't mean the agencies, I mean the actual, companies looking for services. They're really looking up at us and saying, please help. I don't know this world. This is scary to me, and I need to invest this money to make some money. I'm sure you work with an attorney, right? Or a CPA. You may not have a legal background. I don't, but you're looking to them the same way. Like, please help me make sure that this is right so I don't get in trouble. And our service is really, we're in the same boat. It's no different. We need to help as people in the SEO industry, as consultants, we need to help guide businesses to do the right thing.
Yeah, absolutely agree. And I've got, so you remember your friend Anthony Penzabene? Yeah, formerly known as Content Muse on the web, although he's no longer on social media. He, as you know, is our first full-time employee here, and he really helps. We more or less collaborate on the podcast together. He's behind the scenes, and so a lot of people don't know about that or hear from him. But I have a set of questions here from Mr. Penzabene that he has written for you, Bill. So if you'd like, I'd like to go ahead and ask a few of these. His first question is, did you like that setup?
Yeah, so I know him as Hot Anthony. My wife met him twice, and still to this day, I haven't seen Anthony in forever. And she's like, so what's up with Hot Anthony? Where's he at? I hope that embarrasses him.
He'll be listening to this because he does all of our show notes. So Anthony, there you go.
Yeah.
But now I'm going to ask the questions for Bill, and he's great at this. By the way, a lot of the questions that I ask that people say to me sometimes, you ask great questions. Some of them came right from Anthony, so got to give him credit for that. His first question is, in a post called SEO is an Experiment, you stated when you hire a good SEO company, whether they tell you or not, they are experimenting on your dime. Now that sounds actually kind of sketchy, but can you explain what you meant there?
So I do think everything that we do in SEO is an experiment, because you're not going into any situation saying, I have the absolute answer. Do this and you're going to win, right? We're going in, we're saying, let's try, well, the good ones are saying, let's go in, let's try this, let's measure it, and then you have to face your client and go, hey, I'm sorry, that was a bad call, but here's what we learned. And I learned this, so let's try this now. So you're constantly experimenting on their dime. And when I talk to a prospect, I'm really clear to let them know that that's what we're doing. We don't have guarantees, so we have to try different things. So the kind of clients we work with, ideally know that we're that kind of company and expect that. They expect that we're a marketing company that is going to try new things. We're going to be experimenting, on their dime.
Is there any maybe fear on your part that being so forthright, and I think that's great. I mean, has this lost you potential clients?
Oh, for sure. There's been many calls where somebody's like, well, I want this. And I say, well, I can't guarantee I'm going to do that. Well, how long is it going to take? Can you get it in a month? No, I mean, your competition looks pretty steep. You're in an industry where there's a lot of spam. I don't even want to say, a year might not be unreasonable. And then I lose them, and I wonder where they go, but they're just not going to be a fit. We don't want to sign up for things that we can't hit. I don't want to put my account managers in a place where they're going to be having arguments with their clients because there's just a mismatch. Right. So I'm very careful. I'd rather let people leave who just aren't a fit than try to just lure them in and fail with them.
I'm sure that's worked out for you better in the long term, meaning that you don't end up in situations where your employees are completely fed up with you because you get them in situations that are stressful. But also, this probably turns into actually more wins in the long run. Is that what you find as well? This is better for the long term?
Yeah, because our company doesn't make money if we keep losing clients. So when you set the stage properly in the intro calls and you deliver exactly what you promised, you're gonna keep your clients around for a long time.
Yeah.
And that's better for business.
Absolutely agree. So, Anthony, second question. You had a post on Moz called, "Are Your Analytics Telling the Right Story?" You stated, "There's more to the story," meaning your traffic, "than the last click. In analytics, if you go to conversions, multi-channel funnels, assisted conversions, many clients have difficulty understanding the concept of attribution." I know a lot of listeners are familiar with the basics of attribution, but go into a little bit more detail about the significance of looking at multi-channel and assisted conversions.
So I think SEO is really responsible for a lot more than it gets credit for if you're only going to look at the last click. Are you familiar with ZMOT?
With what?
ZMOT, ZMOT, Zero Moment of Truth.
Oh, no, I'm not.
Yeah. So it's a product marketing model. Google talks about it. They say that the first moment of truth is when you actually start identifying, learning about a product, you're playing with it. The second moment of truth is you're now talking about it. So the zero moment of truth is actually this stage where Google says that on average, most people will search about 10 different sources, right? So they're actually trying to learn a lot more about a product. So with attribution, if you think about the different kind of searches that we have, there's informational searches. If there's a lot more people looking for that information, your attribution, you should be able, through attribution models, you should be able to see how your SEO is actually supporting the long funnel that some different companies have, that some different verticals have. And I think looking at that really opens up, in many cases, opens up a lot of eyes on what you should be doing in your SEO campaigns. So if you're just trying to sell product, maybe you got to think about what you're not doing. Maybe you're not doing a very good job of informing people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe you're not selling it very well.
I'm going to give a little tactile tip here for the listeners. So if you go to conversions, multi-channel funnels, assisted conversions, those are the clicks in the menu in Google Analytics, go into that, select organic traffic, and then you're going to select landing pages. So instead of looking at just the organic traffic, Google, Bing, Yahoo, and assisted conversions, look at the landing pages that bring you the most assisted conversions from Google or from organic traffic, and then sort by assisted conversions. Those are the landing pages that you should be promoting or maybe improving ranking on, because they're bringing you a higher ROI in terms of assisted or maybe first touch conversions. So that's something that we've been doing a little bit, and I'm trying to do stuff like that more. But I think if you're going to go right after what can bring higher ROI, that's a good report to go to. Any comments on that, Bill?
No, it's dead on. That's great. I think everybody should always be looking at assisted conversions, looking at attribution.
So Anthony also wants to know, you're an admitted fan of beer. Do you admire the marketing of any brands, breweries, pubs, or other alcohol or beer related things?
That sounds like an Anthony question for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am a fan of beer. I like craft beers, and I really do admire them. I think I think it's really interesting how that world really does its marketing without actually buying ads. Like, when's the last time? Have you ever seen an ad for a black IPA or a peanut butter stout? Right?
Yeah.
You don't see any advertising. You don't see any real marketing for it. It's word of mouth marketing. It's influencer marketing, but you don't even see the key influencers really doing any of it. It's just such a community is doing the marketing for these craft beers, and it's opened up such a scene in the last 10 years. I think that's awesome to watch.
It's a great segue to, I wanted to talk a little bit about music. It reminds me, this craft beer thing, it's almost like they approach their product a little bit more like a musician approaches their art, meaning that you hear so many musicians, they don't want to sell, they don't want to advertise, they don't want to market. They hear those words, and to most of them, it's a dirty word, and they run in the other direction. And there's always this point of contention, I find, between, the artists and the marketers and the musicians and the advertisers. I don't think it needs to be that way, but do you have any thoughts? Or you're a musician yourself, so that's why I'm setting up this question for you. There's videos of you up on stage, riffing out on electric guitar, playing in rock bands, and you're very good at it. So
thanks.
What's your take on, this like divide that seems to occur between artists and marketers?
And by the way, you're a great keyboard player as well.
Thanks, Bill.
Yeah, I think nowadays, like the music industry, that's actually, I mentioned I worked in e-com. I got my start in the music biz. So that was a whole different world back then. And Napster was just sort of starting. And I got kind of close, and I saw that it was very odd how these artists were they were so in love with their art, they didn't want to be these commercial kind of, they didn't want to be seen as sellouts. But you got to do promotion. There's so much today, there's so much noise out there on the internet, there's so much music, so many bands that are making their own albums that they have to do promotion, they have to get it out there. If they could start a groundswell, I don't think anybody's it's not easy to be the next Grateful Dead and have your audience do your complete marketing for you for 40, 50 years. But you definitely have to do promotion. You have to build your scene. You have to build, just like a company, you have to build your brand if you're going to promote your art.
I see it a little bit now in the world of maybe the sort of NPR style podcasts. And that sort of world. I went to the podcasting conference in Chicago last summer. Obviously, I have a podcast here, but there's also a bit of this dissonance in that in today's sort of creative world, in content creators and marketing. And that's frustrating as well, because I went to a little event that Roman Mars from 99% Invisible podcast, which is about architecture and design and so forth. And he has his famous TED Talk about the flags and flag design. But I asked him, I said, what are the things that you do to promote new podcasts? Because they have a whole podcast network of other shows. And the only answer he could really give was that they try to get mentioned on other podcasts. But there was nothing else. There was no Facebook ads or putting content out there, in written content, or maybe trying to do some cross collaborations with video shit. Like, there was nothing. And so again, I guess I'm wondering, what's your take on that side of things as well? Do you think that, content creators, whether it be podcasts, bloggers, could actually benefit from maybe, trying a little bit of marketing out once in a while?
I used to love the idea of you build something amazing, it'll bubble up to the top. I don't really feel that way anymore. And I think that's a shame. I just don't feel that way anymore, because I just think the internet is so big and there's so much noise, and users are getting, more and more accustomed to ignoring things that are popping up in front of them. So you need to do promotion, but you need to do smart promotion. You need to target properly. Your messaging needs to be proper. You need to catch even the person who's scanning the screen. You got to find a way to catch them. And I think I think promotion has to happen to even get in front of them. And then you have to be smart about the way that you're doing it so that you can catch them in their peripheral vision. It's tough. And I think if you don't do it, how many people can actually say I'm successful and I never did any marketing at all? I'm not sure there's that many. So why take the chance?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I mean, I think that for a lot of content creators or artists, they need to sort of I hate to say it, but swallow their pride a little bit and do some actual marketing work. I think a lot of them are fearful it's going to ruin their art and it's not going to be pure anymore. But I think the more exposure you can get to your art, really, it's a win-win for everyone. And otherwise you're going to go back to, waiting tables potentially or driving an Uber.
I think that's okay. If you want to be an artist who isn't about performing and you just want to play in your garage, that's fantastic. But there's some artists that actually do want to share their art. They want to perform. They want to reach as many people and try to influence people. That's great too. But you got to do that with promotion.
So Anthony also wants to know, you've been active in the industry for some time, like you said. What do you think we're going to see in SEO in 10 years or maybe the next 10 years? What are some predictions that you might have for the world of SEO?
Well, I definitely think Google keeps going the way that they started to go with Hummingbird. Was that 2013 or 2014 that came out?
I think 2014 or maybe even 15, but 14 sounds about right.
Yeah, and I liked your comment earlier, and I guess it didn't really go the way, nothing really blows up the way you think it's gonna, right? Did AMP blow up the way we thought it was going to? I'm not so sure.
Yeah,
we saw, authorship came out and kind of went away. But I do think that what they're doing with Hummingbird is probably what they're going to keep on doing in terms of different models. I think AI, right, with RankBrain, that is probably where they're going to keep on going. I see SEO getting just even more difficult. I see the role of the SEO changing more and more into being an actual marketer more than a tactician. I just think the way that we've been the last couple of years is the way that we're going to keep on going the next 5-10 years.
Yeah, absolutely agree. I've said that a lot in this episode. I get picked on sometimes because there was my episode, speaking of AMP, my episode with John Mueller, my phrase was "got it" after everything he said. And I got some negative comments about that. So what are you going to do though, Bill, right? You can't please everyone.
That's right.
I mean, we're giving people free content, so hopefully they can put up with a few got it's or absolutely agrees.
How many did I do in this interview already?
I have to say, Bill, you speak very well. Do you do much speaking? Because you're definitely very articulate, and I've interviewed almost 50 people now.
I don't. I actually, I'm very selective because I do not like public speaking. I'm very, frankly, I'm anxious about public speaking. I could do all the music. I can sing in front of people, play guitar, but put me in front of a microphone and all I want to do is sing. It's a little bit tough for me. Interesting.
So why is that? Because I mean, for a lot of people, it would be the opposite. They'd be scared to death to get up and sing or play music. Is it just because you've been doing that so long and it's just more comfortable for you?
Yeah, I don't know why. It really, singing is a lot different than, even making up guitar solos on the fly and being put on the spot doesn't worry me at all. But
I know why. Is it because there's more beer involved when you're singing or playing guitar?
Oh, for sure. I mean, that's a social lubricant. That's perfect. I can't go on stage and do an SEO talk and be drunk. That just won't come out very well.
Yeah, that is true. I don't advise that to anybody. I'd love to see that sometime, though. Get the whole crew out, do a whole MozCon, right, where everyone's just had a lot of beer. No, don't do that. I'm just kidding. But anyways, Bill, I'm delaying a little because this is going to be my first little outro here where I'm going to kick on the music in just a second. Let's see if this works. My outro music. Do you know I did this music, Bill?
Well, since I can't hear
just a little note to self here to get a mixer where I can see the levels of the music versus my voice, or turn down the music just a little bit so you can hear the voices a little bit better. Okay. Back to the outro. I hope this outro works. Thank you, Bill, so much for stopping by and spending some time with us on The Wire. Can you just tell listeners where they can find you out there on the web?
Our website is greenlaneseo.com. I think you can find me in all sorts of different places with a simple search on a search engine called Google. That's GOOGLE.com.
You're teasing the listeners. And how do you spell your last name for the people in their car that they don't have access?
It's Sebald, Sebald.
Awesome. Bill, thank you so much again. I'm going to let this outro roll here, and then hang on the line, Bill, and I'll talk to you for a second after this music is finished. Thanks, everyone, for tuning into episode 48 of Experts in the Wire. I will see you next time. Cool. I think I did that good.
Yeah, all right, man.
The outro music stopped right when I stopped, so that worked perfect. I can always edit stuff after.